Hey there. Ever wondered what it takes to keep the world running? Like we're talking about the nuts and bolts of global trade, the stuff most people don't even think about.
It's a hidden world for sure, but it's what keeps the shelves stocked and the packages arriving. Today, we're diving deep into the life of a stevedore, those often unsung heroes you see working on the docks.
Unsung is right. I mean, I know they're out there, but I couldn't tell you much about what they actually do. So we're going way beyond just the basic job description today.
We're going to unpack the skills, the challenges, maybe even some unexpected perks of this line of work, all using some really insightful info from RoleCatcher. They're kind of like the career experts.
All right, I'm already intrigued. But before we get into all that, let's set the stage. What does a stevedore even do?
Mm.
Is it all cranes and cargo containers like you see in the movies?
You're definitely dealing with some heavy-duty equipment, that's for sure. But yeah, it's way more intricate than it looks. Imagine, right, these massive ships pulling into port after weeks at sea.
Oh man, I can't even imagine the scale of that.
Each one is packed with thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, of containers, each one stuffed with goods from every corner of the globe. It's mind-boggling.
Okay, so the ships arrive, and then what? It's up to these stevedores to make sure it all gets where it needs to go.
Exactly. And it's not just about unloading. They're also responsible for loading those ships back up with exports, making sure everything is balanced, secured, and ready to set sail again. It's a constant flow.
Sounds like a high-pressure job, especially when you think about those deadlines.
Absolutely. Shipping operates on a tight schedule, and any delays can ripple through the entire supply chain.
So you got these huge ships, tons of cargo, tight deadlines. I'm already feeling stressed out just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. And we haven't even talked about the physical demands yet. This is a job that requires some serious strength and stamina.
I was just going to ask about that. I mean, you're working outdoors in all kinds of weather.
You got it. Rain or shine, heat wave or blizzard, those ships don't unload themselves.
So we're not talking about a typical 9-to-5 desk job here. It takes a special kind of person to thrive in that environment. What kind of qualities are we talking about?
It's definitely more than just muscle, although that's important too. You need someone who can handle pressure, think on their feet, and most importantly, work seamlessly as part of a team.
Teamwork makes sense. You'd have to be in sync with crane operators, truck drivers, countless others to make sure everything flows smoothly.
Precisely. Communication is key in this line of work. A simple misunderstanding or miscommunication could have huge consequences.
And I imagine safety is absolutely paramount, right? I mean, you're dealing with some serious heavy machinery and cargo.
You're absolutely right. One wrong move on a busy dock can have serious consequences. These folks are trained to be incredibly aware of their surroundings and follow strict safety protocols.
So when we talk about a typical day for a stevedore, what does that even look like? Can you walk us through it?
Sure, so let's say a ship has just docked after a long journey across the Pacific. The stevedores are going to be responsible for unloading it, for starters.
Okay, that makes sense, but how do they even know what's in all those containers and where it's supposed to go?
That's where things get really interesting. They use these things called cargo manifests. Basically, it's like a giant, super detailed packing list for the entire ship.
Wow, I bet those are intense.
They can be massive, with information about every single container, what's inside, where it came from, its final destination, all kinds of important details.
Sounds like a recipe for a major headache if you mix those up. So they're unloading these containers, checking them against the manifest, and then what?
Then it's time for some serious logistics. Some containers might be loaded directly onto trucks or trains, while others need to be stored temporarily in the port's container yard.
I can only imagine how they keep track of everything. It's like a giant, constantly moving puzzle.
That's a great way to put it. It's all about coordination, communication, and knowing exactly where everything is at all times.
And I imagine there's very little room for error.
Absolutely. Especially when you're dealing with hazardous materials or time-sensitive cargo like perishable goods, one mistake could have major consequences.
That's a lot of responsibility.
Uh,
Okay, so you've painted a vivid picture of what a stevedore does. Let's say someone is listening to this, and they're like, sign me up. I want to operate a crane and wrangle cargo containers. Where do they even begin?
well, that's where a platform like RoleCatcher can be incredibly helpful.
Ah, yes. We touched on them earlier. They're like the career gurus, right?
Exactly. And they have a ton of resources specifically for aspiring stevedores.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more.
So first off, you can use RoleCatcher to find actual stevedore jobs in your area. They pull in listings from all over the place, company websites, job boards, you name it.
Okay, that's handy. No more endless scrolling through generic job sites.
Right. And it gets even better. They have this cool feature where you can upload your resume and their system will analyze your skills and experience.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Then they match you with jobs that are a good fit. So you're not wasting time applying for positions that you're either overqualified for or don't quite have the experience for yet.
It's like having a personalized career counselor in your back pocket. Now that's what I call working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. But RoleCatcher doesn't just stop at helping you find the job. They also have this incredible interview prep section.
Oh man, interview prep. That's where I always get tripped up. What do they offer? Some generic tips about dressing for success and making eye contact.
Not even close. Their interview prep is tailored specifically to stevedore positions. We're talking about questions you might be asked about safety protocols, handling difficult situations on the job.
Like what? Give me an example.
Let's say a shipment of those bananas you mentioned earlier arrives, and half of them are frozen solid because of a refrigeration malfunction. How do you handle that?
Oof, that's a tough one. I'd imagine you'd need to think quickly and find a way to salvage what you could.
Precisely. And employers want to see that you can stay calm under pressure and make smart decisions when things go wrong.
That makes a lot of sense. So RoleCatcher helps you prepare for those kinds of curveball questions.
They sure do. They've got this whole database of potential interview questions, and you can even practice answering them right there on the platform.
No way. That's amazing. So it's kind of like having a mock interview with a Stevedore expert.
You could say that it's an incredible resource for anyone who's serious about landing a job in this field.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
So let's say you ace the interview, you've got the job. What happens next? Is it just loading and unloading cargo for the rest of your career? Or are there opportunities to move up the ranks? So there's room to grow in this field. That's good to know. What does it look like, though? It's not like you just get automatic promotions in the world of shipping containers, right?
You're right. It's not just about seniority. It takes more than just showing up every day and moving boxes. But there's definitely a path for those who are ambitious and eager to learn. You can level up your skills, so to speak.
Okay, I'm liking the sound of this. So what are some of those paths? What are my options if I want to become a Stevedore superstar?
Well, one option is to specialize in a particular type of cargo. For example, you could become an expert in handling hazardous materials. That often requires extra training, maybe some certifications because the stakes are a lot higher.
Yeah, that makes sense. You wouldn't want just anyone handling barrels of radioactive waste.
Exactly. Or you could focus on oversized cargo. Think those massive wind turbine blades or huge pieces of industrial equipment. That's a whole different ballgame in terms of logistics and safety.
That's wild. Okay, what about leadership roles? Can you move up from, say, managing cargo to managing people?
Oh, absolutely. As you gain experience, you can definitely climb the ladder. If you prove yourself to be reliable, safety conscious, and good at leading a team, you could become a supervisor. That means you're overseeing a whole crew of stevedores, making sure those loading and unloading operations are running like clockwork.
That's a lot of pressure. So from supervisor, what's next?
Well, from there, you could potentially move into management positions within the port itself or even within the shipping company. We're talking about roles that involve big picture planning, managing budgets, even things like negotiating contracts with clients all over the world.
Wow, so you could go from like literally hauling containers to calling the shots on global trade deals. That's incredible.
It's a journey, for sure. And the really exciting thing is, with the way e-commerce is booming these days, the demand for skilled stevedores is only going up.
You know, you mentioned e-commerce. It's true. It's almost impossible to imagine our lives without online shopping now.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, how do you see that impacting the future of stevedores? Is it all smooth sailing ahead, or are there choppy waters on the horizon?
That's a really great question. It's a double-edged sword, in a way. On the one hand, e-commerce has led to this huge surge in shipping volumes. More people buying stuff online means more goods to be moved around the world, which translates to more work for stevedores. But on the other hand, it's also changing the types of skills that are going to be in high demand in the future. Like we've talked about before, technology is transforming every industry, and the maritime world is no exception.
Right. So are we talking about robots taking over the docks? Is that the future of this field?
Well, it's not quite that dramatic yet, but we are seeing things like automated cranes and even self-driving vehicles being introduced in some ports.
Wow, that's wild. Okay, so for someone who's thinking about a career as a stevedore, should they also be like brushing up on their coding skills.
A little tech savviness never hurts. But I think the most important thing for aspiring stevedores to remember is that they need to be adaptable. The industry is evolving quickly, and those who are willing to learn new skills and embrace technology are going to be the ones who thrive.
It's like that old saying, the only constant is change, right?
Exactly. But at the end of the day, even with all the technological advancements, the core of what a stevedore does remains the same. It's about problem solving, teamwork, and keeping those goods moving efficiently and safely.
Absolutely. Well, I have to say, we've covered a ton of ground today, from the day-to-day realities of working on the docks to the long-term career prospects and even how technology is shaping the future of the field. Before we wrap up, what's the one big takeaway you hope our listeners remember about a career as a stevedore?
I think it's important for people to realize that this isn't just a job, it's a career with real potential. It's not just about muscle anymore, it's about using your head, being adaptable, and having that can-do attitude. If you're looking for a job that's constantly changing, always challenging, and playing a vital role in the global economy, this could be it.
I love that. And for those who are ready to explore those opportunities, remember RoleCatcher can be your secret weapon. Whether you're just starting your job search or getting ready for a big interview, their platform has got you covered.
And hey, if you're still on the fence, maybe do a little digging on your own. See how things like 3D printing and personalized manufacturing might change the game for stevedores in the years to come. Who knows? You might uncover some surprising insights.
That's a great point. It just goes to show that in the world of global trade, the learning never really stops. And on that note, we'll wrap things up for today. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of stevedores. Until next time.